Hi, I'm Yvonne, and welcome to Window Gazing, my channel dedicated to bringing enriching activities right to your doorstep, especially for those in between moments. Today's feature, movie poster trivia from the Boomer era. Whether you grew up watching these films in theaters, at the drive-in, or caught them on late-night TV, this collection of classic posters is a visual time capsule for boomers and film lovers alike. From sweeping epics to gritty noir, these designs weren't just advertisements, they were art, packed with drama, glamour, and unforgettable taglines. Pause the video at any time if some fun conversation is sparked by any of the posters you see. There's sure to be some you remember and others you only thought you forgot. Whether you're here to reminisce or rediscover, this visual journey is a love letter to the movies that shaped a generation. Please take a quick moment to click that subscribe and like button. It helps me continue to bring more trivia and word games to you when there's nothing else to do. Then go ahead and grab your popcorn, settle in, and let these posters transport you to a time when the marquee was magic and the artwork was unforgettable. Let's start with this stunner. Clashing Titans, Marilyn Monroe and Laurence Olivier had famously strained relations during filming. Olivier, a classically trained actor, was frustrated by Monroe's method acting and frequent tardiness. Monroe, in turn, felt patronized and dismissed. Years later, Olivier admitted his behavior towards Monroe was unkind, and that her performance had more depth than critics acknowledged at the time. Do you remember looking up the times to go see this movie in a theater, or maybe even the drive-in? Beach Party with Annette Funicello and Frankie Avalon. Birth of a genre. Beach Party kicked off the wildly popular beach movie craze of the 1960s, spawning sequels like Muscle Beach Party, Bikini Beach, and Beach Blanket Bingo. Annette and Frankie Forever. Annette Funicello, a former Mouseketeer, was handpicked by Walt Disney to maintain her wholesome image, even in a bikini. Frankie Avalon was already a teen idol, and their chemistry became iconic. If it wasn't for the marquee lights, you might think this was a cover of a naughty novel, but this is the poster for Twilight for the Gods, starring Rock Hudson and Sid Charisse. Rock Hudson plays a disgraced sea captain, a departure from his usual romantic leads. He was eager to prove his dramatic range, and this role gave him the chance to brood and brawl. The ship used in the film was a real schooner, retrofitted for dramatic effect. It leaked constantly, and cast members joked they were acting in a floating bathtub. Who could forget The Odd Couple? From Broadway to the movie and the late night show, Walter Matthau originally wanted to play Felix, not Oscar. He felt Oscar was too close to his own personality and wanted a challenge. Neil Simon shut that down with, "Walter, go and be an actor in somebody else's play. Please be Oscar in mine." Jack Lemmon earned $1 million plus 10% of the gross, while Matthau took a flat $300,000. Just look at the drama presented in the poster for Cimarron. Gives you the feeling that this is going to be an epic movie. Glenn Ford was not the studio's first choice. MGM initially eyed more flamboyant stars to match the epic scale. Rumors swirled around Charlton Heston and even Rock Hudson. Ford's casting was seen as a safer, more grounded choice. Edna Ferber was reportedly unimpressed. The author of the source novel had praised the 1931 version, but felt like the 1960 remake missed the emotional nuance of her story. Do you remember seeing this movie advertisement in your newspaper? How can we forget Mary Poppins, Julie Andrews' first film? She was passed over for My Fair Lady, despite originating Eliza Doolittle on Broadway, but Walt Disney saw her on The Ed Sullivan Show and cast her as Mary Poppins. She won the Oscar. Audrey Hepburn didn't even get nominated that year. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. That wasn't even in the books. It was invented by the Sherman Brothers and became a cultural phenomenon. Travers, the author who wrote the book the movie's based on, hated it. Who could forget this gem? Truman Capote wanted Marilyn Monroe. He envisioned Monroe as Holly Golightly, raw, vulnerable, seductive, but her advisor feared the role would damage her image. Capote was furious when Audrey Hepburn was cast, calling it a terrible mistake. Can you imagine that? Moon River was almost cut. Paramount executives thought it was too slow. Hepburn reportedly said, "Over my dead body." The song won an Oscar and became a timeless standard. Your Cheatin' Heart, starring George Hamilton as Hank Williams. Yes, that golden boy. MGM cast the suave, tan leading man known for romantic roles as the tormented country legend. Hamilton lobbied hard for the role, even learning to mimic Williams' mannerisms. Critics were skeptical, but fans warmed to his earnest performance. Elvis Presley was rumored to be interested. Though never confirmed, some studio insiders claimed Elvis considered the role before Hamilton was cast. MGM ultimately felt Hamilton was more controllable. You recognize that smile as soon as you see this movie poster. Please Don't Eat the Daisies with Doris Day. Based on Gene Kerr's bestseller, the original book was a collection of essays about suburban life and motherhood. MGM turned it into a fictionalized comedy, blending Kerr's wit and Doris Day's charm. That massive white dog, a sheepdog named Lad, became a fan favorite. MGM briefly considered a spin-off featuring the dog, but it never materialized. For our horror fans, here's 13 Frightened Girls. This poster's sure to scare. A wild, campy thriller from the master of movie gimmicks, William Castle. It's packed with production, stunts, international casting chaos, and Cold War-era intrigue disguised as teen drama. Castle was famous for outrageous promotional stunts, buzzers under the seats, skeletons flying over audiences, insurance policies against death by fright. For 13 Frightened Girls, he launched a global casting contest to find 13 teenage girls from 13 different countries. Von Ryan's Express. It was one of Sinatra's biggest hits of the 1960s, proving he could carry an action film as well as a musical or drama. The ending shocked audiences. Sinatra's death was unexpected and controversial. Some fans felt betrayed, while critics praised its emotional punch. Military advisors helped choreograph the escape scenes, lending authenticity to the POW dynamics and tactics. Some veterans praised the film's depiction of camaraderie under pressure. If this movie poster doesn't say 1960s, I don't know what does. The Courtship of Eddie's Father. Ronnie Howard, later Ron Howard, was just 9 years old and already a seasoned actor from The Andy Griffith Show. His performance as Eddie was praised for its natural charm and comedic timing. Ronnie Howard's performance impressed Minnelli so much, he reportedly said, "That boy's got the instincts of a grown actor." It was an early sign of Howard's future as a director. Who could forget Flipper? Flipper was played by multiple dolphins. The role was shared by several trained bottlenose dolphins, most notably Mitzi, who performed most of the close-up and leaping scenes. Mitzi became a celebrity in her own right, with fan mail and public appearances. Mitzi was also reportedly moody off camera. Trainers said she had star days where she refused to perform unless given extra fish. I can't say I blame her. A classic sci-fi movie poster ad for the newspaper. First Men in the Moon. Not on the moon, as you'll notice. Lionel Jeffries stole scenes as Professor Cavour, the eccentric inventor. He reportedly improvised much of his dialogue, adding comic energy to the role. The film, released during the height of the space race, just 5 years before the actual moon landing, Audiences were primed for lunar fantasies, and the film played into both wonder and fear. What a classic-looking 1960s movie poster. Lilies of the Field, starring Sidney Poitier, who became the first black actor to win the Academy Award for Best Actor for his role. His win was groundbreaking, especially in a film that emphasized dignity, mutual respect, and quiet strength over spectacle. Poitier's singing of Amen was improvised. The scene where he teaches the nuns the gospel song was unscripted and became one of the film's most iconic moments. The call and response rhythm added emotional warmth and humor. What a dramatic-looking newspaper ad. Ship of Fools with Vivien Leigh. This was Vivien Leigh's last role. She was battling bipolar disorder, declining in health, yet gave a haunting performance as a bitter divorcee. Director Stanley Kramer said she was brilliant and heartbreaking, though filming was emotionally taxing. Filmed almost entirely on studio sets, with elaborate ship interiors built to simulate the claustrophobic voyage, Kramer used tight framing and overlapping dialogue to heighten the sense of entrapment. Look at this cute movie poster from the 1960s, Period of Adjustment, starring Jane Fonda, which was her first major film role. She was just 24 and still shaking off her image as Henry Fonda's daughter. Her performance as Isabel was praised for its vulnerability and wit, and it helped launch her into serious stardom. Jane Fonda was dating director George Roy Hill during production, which led to whispers about favoritism. Fonda later said Hill was instrumental in helping me find my voice as an actress. This poster for The Caregiver, starring Joan Crawford, is a striking example of mid-century movie marketing, emotionally charged, compositionally layered, and extremely theatrical. Crawford allegedly rewrote parts of her dialogue, claiming the original script didn't reflect her character's authority. Bartlett pushed back, but MGM sided with Crawford. They were probably afraid of her. Critics were split. Some praised its ambition, others called it exploitative. The New York Times described it as a soap opera in a straitjacket. Now, you know, when you saw this movie poster, this was going to be a very fun, happy, and uplifting time. The movie, The Music Man, helped revive interest in marching bands and Americana. High schools across the U.S. staged The Music Man in droves after the film's release. Shirley Jones was pregnant during the filming. She kept it quiet for much of the shoot. Costume designers cleverly adjusted her wardrobe to conceal her growing belly. Here's an example of a big-budget movie with big-budget marketing taking out a full page in a newspaper. Lawrence of Arabia. Who could forget this one? The camel training took weeks. Peter O'Toole had never ridden one before and reportedly said, "It's like sitting on a pile of knives." He eventually became so adept, the Bedouin extras nicknamed him Abdul O'Toole. The movie won 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Cinematography. Peter O'Toole was nominated but didn't win. He holds the record for the most acting nominations without a win, a total of 8. The film used over 150 speaking roles and 1,000 extras in some scenes, including real members of the Jordanian army. A star-studded movie poster with most of the famous faces of the time. 24 major stars appeared in How the West Was Won, including John Wayne, James Stewart, Debbie Reynolds, Henry Fonda, Gregory Peck, and Caroline Jones. Many were cast for name recognition rather than character fit. The train robbery scene was filmed with real locomotives, and stuntmen performed dangerous leaps between cars. One broke a rib, but they finished the scene. John Wayne and Henry Fonda never shared a scene, despite both being top billed. Their schedules didn't align, and their characters existed in different story arcs. Jump for joy, it's Jumbo, not Dumbo. Jimmy Durante was the heart of the film, both on and off set. He kept morale high with jokes and impromptu piano sessions. MGM considered spinning him off into a circus-themed TV show, but it never materialized. The film was nominated for an Oscar for Best Scoring of Music, Adaptation, or Treatment, but lost to The Music Man. 2 Weeks in Another Town with Kirk Douglas, Edward G. Robinson, and Sid Charisse. Kirk Douglas was reportedly difficult during filming, clashing with Minnelli, the director, over line readings and blocking. He felt the character was too passive and pushed for rewrites to make him more assertive. The car crash scene was added late, intended to eject more action. Minnelli disliked it, calling it cheap melodrama. The film within a film device? Douglas plays a washed-up actor trying to revive his career by starring in a troubled production, mirrored real tensions on the set. The Endless Summer, a film not known by all, but known very well by some. It's a sun-drenched surf documentary that became a cultural phenomenon, made on a shoestring budget, edited in a garage, and still influencing travel, fashion, and filmmaking decades later. The soundtrack by the Sandals became iconic, especially the theme song. It helped define the surf rock genre and was later sampled in commercials and other films. Butterfield 8. The poster with Elizabeth Taylor, scantily clad. She won Best Actress for her role as Gloria Wanderess, but she famously hated the film. She took the role to fulfill contractual obligation and later called it a piece of obscenity. It was a controversial win, though. Many critics believe Taylor's Oscar was awarded more out of sympathy than merit. She had nearly died of pneumonia shortly before the ceremony, and public sentiment was high. A star-studded newspaper ad for The Great Race starring Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon, and Natalie Wood. This film was loosely based on the 1908 New York to Paris auto race. It was one of the most expensive comedies of its time, with a budget of around $12 million, which was huge for 1965. The Great Race spared no expense. Massive sets, elaborate costumes, and globe-spanning locations all dialed up the absurdity. Loosely based on the real race is for sure. The film riffs on the race from New York to Paris, but turns it into a cartoonish romp across continents, complete with sabotage, disguises, and musical interludes. You know what you're in for when you see this man on the movie poster. Psycho. No late admissions allowed, though. Hitchcock insisted that no one be admitted after the film started, a radical move in 1960 when audiences often wandered in mid-movie. This created a sense of urgency and mystery, turning Psycho into an event. A control-freak genius, Hitchcock was famously meticulous. He bought up copies of the original novel to prevent spoilers and kept the ending secret from the cast and crew until filming. The Killers. Ronald Reagan's final film was The Killers. He played a villain, a cold-blooded crime boss, which was a sharp departure from his usual good guy persona. Reagan reportedly hated the role and the film's violence. He never acted again after this, pivoting fully into politics. So yes, this poster captures the last cinematic gasp of a future U.S. president. Sharon Tate's final role, The Wrecking Crew. Tragically, The Wrecking Crew was her last film, before her murder in 1969. Her performance was praised for its comedic timing and physicality. She trained with Bruce Lee for her fight scenes. Dean Martin played Matt Helm. Martin played the boozy, womanizing secret agent with a wink and a cocktail, often improvising lines and refusing retakes. Who could forget this awesome piece of cinematic history? King Kong versus Godzilla. It was the first time these two legendary monsters appeared together, and it marked a bold crossover between American and Japanese monster mythologies. In color and all new were major selling points in 1962, when color films were still gaining ground. Our Man Flint, the man who makes no mistakes. Flint's lighter had 82 functions, including a flamethrower and a tranquilizer dart. It's a direct spoof of Bond's gadget obsession, but exaggerated for the absurdity. Though not as famous as Bond, Our Man Flint inspired later spy spoofs like Austin Powers, Johnny English, and Archer. Colburn's deadpan delivery and physical grace made Flint iconic in his own right. Everybody remembers this iconic movie poster, The Birds by Alfred Hitchcock. Tippi Hedren had such an ordeal filming this. In the infamous attic scene, Hitchcock used real birds instead of mechanical ones, without warning her. She was pecked and clawed for 5 days, leading to exhaustion and injury. Alfred Hitchcock broke convention by using no musical score. Instead, he relied on electronic bird noises and ambient sound to build tension. The silence makes the attacks feel eerily real. You know what you're in for when you see this newspaper movie ad. The Sandpiper with Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton, and Eva Marie Saint. Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton were in the throes of their real-life love affair during the filming. It was tabloid gold at the time. Their chemistry on-screen was fueled by off-screen passion, making the film feel like a public confessional wrapped in Technicolor. During one emotional scene, Burton was so tipsy he quoted Shakespeare instead of the script, and Minnelli kept the take. One crew member claimed Burton's trailer had more bottles than props in it. It's a tough-looking movie poster here with Marlon Brando in The Ugly American. Brando took this role seriously. He co-produced the film and saw it as a way to spotlight American missteps overseas. He even met with President Kennedy to discuss the film's themes. Brando hoped it would influence policy. That's not your average Hollywood ego trip. It was activism through cinema. Judy Garland, I Could Go On Singing. Released in 1963, it marked her final appearance on the big screen. She was only 40, and though her voice had changed, her emotional power was unmatched. Unlike many musicals of the time, Garland's songs were recorded live on set, adding rawness and immediacy to her delivery. Where Angels Go, Trouble Follows, starring Rosalind Russell and Stella Stevens. Producers originally wanted Haley Mills to reprise her role as Mary Clancy, now grown up and reformed as Sister George. When she turned it down, they rewrote the character and cast Stella Stevens instead. Real nuns protested the movie. Some Catholic groups objected to the film's portrayal of religious life, calling it disrespectful. Others embraced its humor and saw it as a lighthearted take on evolving roles within the church. The same team that brought us My Fair Lady also brought us Gigi. Gigi won 9 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, who was Vincent Minnelli, and Best Adapted Screenplay. At the time, it set a record for the most Oscars won by a single film. It beat out Cat on a Hot Tin Roof and Auntie Mame, making its sweep all the more impressive given its frosty tone. Who could forget this sci-fi classic? H.G. Wells' The Time Machine. He certainly was a futurist. The original 1895 novella was one of the first works to popularize the concept of time machines. Wells coined the term and shaped how we imagine time travel today. The time machine props survived. The iconic machine itself, brass, spinning discs and all, were restored and now reside in a private collection. It's considered one of the most recognizable sci-fi props ever built. Requiem for a Heavyweight with Jackie Gleason, Mickey Rooney, Julie Harris, and Anthony Quinn. Jackie Gleason, best known for The Honeymooners, stunned audiences with his dramatic turn as a morally compromised manager, Maish. He just played Minnesota Fats in The Hustler, proving his range. Mickey Rooney plays Army, Mountain's loyal trainer. His scenes, especially the restaurant confrontation, were so compelling that CBS added them back in for a TV broadcast despite director Ralph Nelson's objections. Who remembers this movie, Brewster McCloud? This was Robert Altman's follow-up to MASH, and he went full experimental. No studio polish, just chaotic energy and layered satire. The white splashes on people's heads in the poster? Bird poop as divine judgment. Altman's way of saying society is full of crap. What a passion-filled movie poster. A Star is Born with Barbra Streisand and Chris Christopherson. Barbra Streisand had all the power for this film. She didn't just star in it, she was the executive producer, co-writer of the music, and had final say on many creative decisions. Her production company, Barwood Films, was behind the project. And surprising the most, Chris Christopherson didn't sing his own songs. Despite being a musician, Christopherson's vocals were dubbed. In some scenes, Streisand's perfectionism reportedly led to re-recordings and edits to match her standards. Even though not exactly a part of the Boomer era, Jaws is a part of many eras. Bruce the Shark, the mechanical shark that was in the movie, was nicknamed Bruce after Spielberg's lawyer. It constantly malfunctioned, forcing Spielberg to suggest the shark's presence through music, shadows, and point-of-view shots, which made the film scarier. The PG rating was a controversy. Despite intense scenes, Jaws was rated PG. There was no PG-13 yet. Many parents were shocked by the violence, prompting future rating reforms. Often considered one of the greatest films ever made, Ben-Hur, starring Charlton Heston. This film became a template for epic filmmaking, influencing everything from Gladiator to Game of Thrones. Its blend of spectacle, morality, and personal redemption remains potent. The chariot race sequence is legendary. It took 3 months to shoot, used 15,000 extras, and was choreographed without computer-generated imagery or stunt doubles for most of Heston's scenes. It's still considered one of the greatest action sequences in film history. You might be surprised to know that Charlton Heston wasn't the first choice for the main lead. Burt Lancaster turned it down, calling the script too religious. Paul Newman also declined, saying he didn't have the legs for a tunic. And that's a wrap on today's stroll through the bold, brassy, and beautifully bonkers world of Boomer-era movie posters and Technicolor. If you need to fill time again, you're in the right place. Window gazing is a space for reminiscing and cognitive activities. Whether you're sitting with someone you care for, keeping company during a slow afternoon, or just looking for something thoughtful to share. So go ahead and subscribe, stay close to the moments that matter, and don't miss the linked activities at the end of this video. They're made for you and for the people you're with. Thanks and have a great day.